Pop culture has continually provided the world with many examples of mental disorders over the years. Through these portrayals, whether they be 13 Reasons Why and Suicide or American Horror Story Asylum types, they create an image of what we think the mental disorders are. Through this short piece, I want to discuss some of the positive references, being the ones most accurate to the disorder, as well as ones that might have been harmful as representations for the disorders. Many generations, including my own, grew up with one of the most guilty of companies in affecting the way we perceive mental disorders in the public. Through movies such as Dumbo and Beauty and the Beast, Disney takes the cake. In an article written by Lost and Fowles, they followed the stigma of mental illnesses through Disney and all of its contents. They believe that 85% of Disney films in which they studied had reference to mental illnesses of some sort. These references may not have been direct illnesses that children would have, but instead verbal references that led to negative connotations of words, such as Beauty and the Beast's Maurice, who was called a lunatic and hauled away in a wagon. This, in a sense, taught us how to view those who have mental illnesses as dangerous and unapproachable to the public. I truly believe that mental disorders, especially in the past decade alone, have become much more normalized. By that, I mean it's common reference that almost anything in the world of movies, television, and written word contains characters who are or are on the verge of having a psychological disorder. So much anymore, comedies and dramas alike touch on depression, body dysmorphia, and sexual abuse. This can be really positive when done correctly, however, a lot of content out there may be inaccurate in making people into monsters or glorifying things we shouldn't. In the past several years, there has been a growing amount of attention to creating more accurate and approachable characters with mental illnesses, despite all of our Disney background. However, there are still moments where illnesses are stigmatized incorrectly. 13 Reasons Why is a hot topic of debate because it makes teen depression seem slightly more approachable as a subject that is long overdue. The main character appears strong-willed and happy for a great deal of time, but also is dealing with a great deal of moments when she is in her state of her own mood disorder. She exhibits many symptoms and has many causal factors that are depicted through the show, being events of rape and mild abuse from her own parents. But there are some negative impacts to approaching a topic like this, especially in the way that the show depicts her own suicide. Suicide rates have been consistently high in teens, and the numbers only continue to rise. A study depicted in Twenge et al. Shows that since 2010, a number of suicides between 8th and 12th grade have increased, and those exposed to media are even at higher risk because of the loss of activity and the loss of social interaction. 13 Reasons Why, in a sense, glorified the suicide of the main teen and showed an emotional impact within the school after the death. In this case, her mental health seemed a lot more glamorous than it really is. And the uproar behind this has led to a great following of people creating the idea in their heads that this is the way suicide is. 13 Reasons Why is one of many teen-based shows and movies depicting suicide and depression, some others being an example of Perks Being a Wallflower, in which a boy has a long-term depression and attempts to end his own life. And then there's also movies like Romeo and Juliet, which are less contemporary, but also have the glory in giving in to an end. There are countless other examples, even outside of film, with musicians who are idolized and beloved more after death, such as Kurt Cobain. Depression is easily the most recognizable mental illness out in the media today. As I said previously, comedies have been just as intense as dramas, such as something as simple as a cartoon. BoJack Horseman is another such example that follows the sad life of the lead through his alcoholism and manic depressive episodes that he has. From there, it quickly bounces to childhood abuse and even to severance of the prefrontal lobe as a lobotomy-esque type procedure.
I can't be with people, and I can't be alone. I don't know how to be better, Joseph. Please fix me. I want to be better.
Is Mother okay?
She is now. She just let her womanly emotions get the better of her, that's all. Nothing a little operation couldn't fix.
Operation?
What's broken in the heart can never be repaired, but the brain, well, we have all sorts of science for the brain. She's a brand new woman now, and she'd like to meet you very much.
Mother?
Oh, hello.
It's Beatrice.
The lifestyle of BoJack is also somewhat glamorous, showing that he's beyond wealthy and he lives the rock and roll lifestyle so many dream of having. giving way to yet another character that is semi-relatable, yet somehow is depicted as unattainable, which can kind of distance the idea of what can really be depressed. It's so common through the media and throughout our culture to have a heavy prevalence of body dysmorphia. However, it's generally through relatively unspoken communication rather than addressing eating disorders as an actual mental illness. To the Bone is one such movie in which the lead is the restricting type of anorexia nerviosa and is sent to a home of people with similar problems as well as those with other types, such as bulimia. This is the first movie in a number of years that has spread to audiences regarding a rather accurate portrayal of the less than stellar lifestyle of an eating disorder. It's almost on the verge of being a taboo topic unless it's something involving a sport of some type, like Perfect Body and gymnastics. There are plenty of movies in this world that address anorexia as the key or ideal body shape, such as movies like Mean Girls, having body expectations to be within the group, or even men taking steroids as the norm. Steroids appear in a lot of movies dealing with football or other sports, but steroids can even appear in Adam Sandler comedies.
Listen, doctor, this friend of mine's been experimenting a little with steroids, and he's been having a lot of wet dreams. Could there be a connection between those two?
Douglas, get off the juice. And as far as the nocturnal emissions, why don't you take a swim, buy a shirt with no holes in it, find a beautiful vagina, and take her to dinner?
Tell my friend you said so.
It's very rare that the mental illnesses dealing with eating disorders are talked about in a curable and serious manner. A lot of progress has been made in regards to how we view mental illness and how it's perceived in modern-day society. However, there is still a lot of judgment and social persecution that occurs with anyone that has any type of disorder, no matter how outward it really appears. Truthful commentaries, as well as pushing aside stereotypes and aggressive judgments towards those with mental illnesses, may make it easier in the future to seek treatments as well as not feeling so publicly ostracized. Media uses mental illnesses as defining characteristics, and they can use derogatory language to persuade the public, and we can only hope that the awareness, eventually, will lead to an understanding in a less harmful way.